My name is Raymond Berthelot, and I'm the Parks Program Manager with the Office of State Parks. Now, what that means is that I oversee interpretive programming, educational programming, special projects that are mainly concerned with the preservation and education of the natural and cultural resources of the properties of the Office of State Parks system. And so on behalf of the Office of State Parks, I just want to say thank everyone for coming. I think we have a wonderful project that we're celebrating today. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about the project. I'm going to leave that to our guest of honor, Jack Cantrell, and he's going to talk more about the historical significance of the project. But I do want to say, from the Office of State Parks' perspective, is that we have a mission, we have a goal in the Office of State Parks system, and that is to talk about and educate on all of the significant historical aspects of Louisiana's culture and history. And when Jack approached us with this project for his Eagle Scout badge, we were definitely on board from the get-go. Because what this project does is that it showcases and it highlights, and most significantly, it commemorates those peoples that have been involved in this site and in the significant culture of not only this area, but all of Louisiana, that over the years have largely been forgotten by historians and communities at large. And this is the significant contributions of African American culture and Native American culture to the establishment and the continuation of the overall culture of Louisiana. And we have a wonderful opportunity here at Fontainebleau State Park to participate in the commemoration of those cultures and of those histories, and significantly of those peoples as they represent the history of Fontainebleau State Park. So I just want to welcome everybody, thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to help us participate in this celebration and this commemoration of this wonderful signage project that's been initiated by Mr. Jack Cantrell. As part of the welcome, I would just like to take a moment and invite up to the podium Mr. Fuad Horn, the manager of Fontainebleau, and I'm sure he has a few things to say as a form, as a welcome to Fontainebleau State Park.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day, and we're excited to welcome all of you here. We're excited to have this idea that Jack worked on and helped make. It is a bridge between our history and our present. It is very important for our guests to come enjoy the park, not only as a recreational site, but also learn about its history and learn about its rich past. So welcome all of you again. Thank you, Jack. Thank you all of you for coming here and celebrating this with us. And thank you, Mr. Ray.
Now we're going to get the official program started, and we're going to begin with a presentation of the colors by the Mandible Boy Scouts of America, Scout Troop 119.
Color guard, attention. Audience, please rise. Scout salute. Those not in uniform, please place your hand over your heart. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, halt. Post the colors.
And now, without further ado, I'm sure you guys have had enough of me doing the presentation. Let's welcome up our guest of honor, Jack Cantrell, and he's going to give us the historical overview, and he's going to take over the program from here.
appears that the rain's holding off, but we'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today in order to commemorate the lives of two groups of people who played a pivotal role in our nation's and state's history. Those two groups are the Native Americans and the enslaved. Please allow me to start off with the history of the Native Americans of this area. 2,500 years ago, only a mile and a quarter east of us, was a small village that lay on the banks of a bayou. The people who inhabited this area were part of the Chipmunk culture. They were mound builders and hunter-gatherers whose culture spanned from southeastern Texas all the way to western Mississippi. There's still much mystery surrounding the Chipmunk culture, but it is known that these people were the first group to create large amounts of pottery and ceramics in Louisiana. Although their mounds are now gone, archaeologists discovered 50,000 shards of pottery and human remains of 43 buried individuals in them. The next group were known as the Occult-Peasant. They had been living on the Pearl River in the 1500s, and the original numbers estimated at around 3,000 people. By 1699, the tribe had decreased by half. The French explorer Bienville met the Occult-Peasant that year and counted 300 or so more warriors. He was being escorted to their site on the Pearl River by a group of people. Bienville fully expected to be the first European that the Occult-Peasant had ever laid eyes on. Instead, they were very alarmed by the white men and ready to attack. Bayou chief kept Bienville and his men back and went ahead to ask what the matter was. As it turned out, only 2 days before, the Occult-Peasant had already met the first Europeans, under different circumstances, however. They had been attacked by 200 Chickasaw under the leader of British slave traders. Many of the Occult-Peasant got away, but they were not alone in being targeted by the British who hated the Chickasaw, capture other tribes. The British Chickasaw slave raids began during the early 1690s and eventually carried thousands of Native Americans to the slave docks at Charleston, South Carolina. They were sent to the British islands of St. Kitts, Barbados, and Jamaica to be sold as enslaved plantation owners. To escape further attacks, the Occult-Peasant moved here in 1702, Castine Bayou, just north of where we are seated. Farming was supplemented by hunting and fishing, and what may be surprising here, buffalo were a major source of meat. The Occult-Peasant were an ingenious tribe, particularly in hunting methods and tattooing. When hunting, they wore tanned deer skins with the antlers attached to get close to their prey so they could ambush them. Out of all other tribes, however, the people could be identified instantly because they were covered head to toe in tattoos. Once a powder was cut into the skin, ashes of willow bark were placed in the patch. As well as acting as an ink, the willow bark ash was probably selected because of the natural aspirin found in willow bark. The Occult-Peasant were willing to ally with the French for their protection and became friendly trade partners, but increasing contact with Europeans exposed them to diseases like smallpox, which would eventually go on to kill most of them. In 1739, they were taken in by the Houma people. The Houma are indigenous to Louisiana and originally lived along the Amy and the Red Rivers. The Occult-Peasant and Houma people both spoke a form of the Muscogee language, which made acceptance by the Houma easier. Members of the United Houma Nation are here today, and it is possible that some of their ancestors may be the very same Occult-Peasant that once lived right here. In the mid-1700s, another group who spoke a similar language moved into the area, the Choctaw. The Choctaw people were originally from Mississippi, Alabama, and northern Florida. As British and American settlers continued to claim their lands, the Choctaw moved to Louisiana and formed alliances with the French. When the Indian Removal Act was signed into law, the Choctaw were the first tribe forced under the Trail of Tears. For those who managed to remain on the North Shore, they were largely concentrated in Lacombe, where Father Adrian Roquette established a large chapel. He also built two smaller chapels, one of which was on Cane Bayou, just to the northeast of this spot, and on the edge of what is now the park. The Choctaw called Cane Bayou Chelaha, which translates as noisy, because of the sound of the wind rattling the cane grass along the waterway. The chapel is just 1 mile upstream of where the Chipmunk culture once lived. Choctaws were nomadic hunters who were and are still famous for their cane baskets. Across Bayou Castine, just outside the park's western boundary, there's a spot in Old Mandeville called Pottery Hill. It is a bank of high ground where the Coles Creek and Plaquemines people lived from the 8th century to the 17th century. It was their broken pieces of pottery found in the soil that gave the spot its name. The Choctaw used that high ground to sell their intricate cane baskets to Creole families. The name Castine Bayou comes from the native Muscogee term Castem Bayou. It translates as Bayou of Fleas, because of the biting insects that infested the banks. Creoles accepted the name Castine Bayou, unaware of its derogatory meaning. With encampments, chapels, and trading posts on the two bayous that mark the park's edges, Native peoples aided the Creoles in learning to survive and thrive throughout southern Louisiana. Unfortunately, they were not given the same favors in return. The historical marker commemorating Native people is located at the trailhead leading to the Marsh Boardwalk. The text of the marker is included in your program, but I hope you will view it in person if the rain holds out before leaving the park. Please stand if you are able and join me in honoring the Native Americans. In 1829, around the same time the Indian Removal Act was being drafted, a man named Bernard de Marigny de Mandeville began bringing to life his plans for a resort town on the north side of Lake Pontchartrain. Before we can discuss how the enslaved impacted our area, we need to first talk about the plantation. Along with his initial purchase of the area that would become the town of Mandeville, Marigny bought 4,800 acres to the east of Bayou Castille, and named the site Fontainebleau after the forest in Paris, France. This is where Bernard set up one of his most ambitious projects and would rely on the labor of the enslaved people. The land that became Fontainebleau was not always a sugar plantation. In fact, it was a cattle ranch when Marigny first made the purchase. He planned to transform it into a serious economic investment. His plan was to produce bricks, sugar, and lumber at Fontainebleau, and then ship them across Lake Pontchartrain on a schooner named Foray. On the south shore of the lake, Bernard had a deep water port at Bayou St. John. About a mile and a half along the bayou, Bernard owned a canal that went directly to the Mississippi River. He would have the goods then transported along the bayou to the waiting ships. Bernard needed a massive workforce to convert the cattle ranch into an industrial park. That workforce was, of course, the enslaved. In order to construct the buildings necessary for his industrial park, Marigny needed bricks. In order to get these bricks, a brick kiln was built. The bricks that were created used the very same clay that the Tchefuncte culture made pottery with. In fact, the bricks were Marigny's primary source of income. If I haven't said bricks enough. To get the bricks, later on the sugar and timber, to a schooner, enslaved engineers designed a canal that connected the industrial park to the lake. If any of you have gone over the small bridge on the Southern Trail, at the very beginning of it, and you've crossed that very same canal, there were teams of oxen that would be set on either side of the canal to pull small barges loaded with bricks, sugar, and lumber to the lake. At the lake, the same engineers designed a wharf where the schooner Foray would be docked. Products would be moved from the barge to the ship. Bernard also set up passenger services with the steamship Blackhawk. The Blackhawk brought over his guests and clients from New Orleans. Once the wharf, canal, and brickyard were running, homes for the enslaved families had to be built. Under the Alley of Oaks, 20 duplex cabins were built just above the ground with brick pillars. The 20 duplexes housed 40 families at one time. And if you can walk through the oaks, you can still see the brick hearths from their fireplaces. The sugar mill and lumber yard came next. Marigny purchased the steam engine as the power source and interconnected the kiln, lumber mill, and sugar mill in order to operate at peak efficiency. In 1829, the steam engine was priced at $6,000. In 2019, calculating the inflation rate, would be equivalent to $165,000. If the steam engine exploded or rendered inoperable by other means, Bernard would not only lose $165,000, but potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars more in lost sales of lumber and sugar. Because of Marigny's dependence upon this one steam engine, it required significantly skilled workers in order to maintain it. Those workers, once again, were the enslaved. Marigny not only had engineers to run his industrial park, but children also played a large role, particularly in the sugar-making process. Because of their small hands and arms, children were vital in making sugar because they could feed the cane into the rollers of the sugar presses. This was very dangerous work, which is why there was a hospital on site. Marigny's system turned a large profit for several years, but it was not to last. In 1837, disaster struck the nation. The financial panic of that year caused a downturn in the economy, and the price of sugar and bricks plummeted. In order to save himself, Bernard began mortgaging most of the enslaved workers. More incidents beset Marigny, like a break in the levee of Plaquemine, which destroyed much of Bernard's other crops. In In desperation, he mortgaged Font moved half a dozen times, but to no avail. In 1852, he was forced to sell the plantation and all of its properties, along with the workers, at a loss. The efforts and hard work provided by those people were fruitless for Marion in the end. But we are here to remember them, so let us stand and give a round of applause to do so. It is because of those half a dozen mortgages that we have the names of all 153 enslaved people that lived here from 1829 to 1852, the names of which are in your insert. Of those 153, 57 were children. The last time their names were called was likely by their mothers and fathers. Let us honor them by doing the same.
Josephine, age 2, along with her mother Rachel, age 22.
Mary Louise, age 16, Moses, age 15, Luzon, age 13, Antoinette, age 13, Louis, age 12.
Violet, age 12, Alan, age 11, Jacques, age 11, Marinette, age 11, and Clemens, age 11.
Patsy, age 10, Devil, age 9, St. Louis, age 9, Clement, age 9, Benign, age 9. Julian, age 8, Ambien, age 8, Louis, age 8, Agnes, age 8, and Colleen, age 8.
Clemens, age 7, Georges, age 7, John, age 7, Celestine, age 7, and Madeline, age 7.
Genevieve, age 7, Rachel, age 7, Pichon, age 6, Mary Noel, age 6, Becky, age 5.
Anna, age 5, Lord, age 5, Francoise, age 5, Elizabeth, age 4, Azime, 6 months, and Matilda, age 14.
Joe, age 14. Emmeline, age 13. Durante, age 15. Petit Luis, age 14.
Cecile, age 7, Sophsine, age 4, Alexander, age 2, along with their mother, Violet, age 26.
Lucian, 2, and a newborn baby, along with their mother, Benin, age 24.
Pichon, age 10, Marguerite, age 5, Petit Thomas, age 4, Jersine, age 4, and a newborn infant, along with their mother, Clemine, age 23.
Yusube, age 12, along with their mother, Maryville, age 13.
Rebecca, age 5, Nelson, age 2, along with their mother, Akoi, 29. James, age 12, Anne, age 7, along with their mother, Lucille, age 35.
Francois, age 7, and Yoli, age 4, along with their mother, Annalisa, age 36.
Charles, age 15, Noel, age 7, along with her mother, Francine, age 45.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for coming out today, in spite of the weather, to listen and learn about these groups of people. Font Loup has a truly unique history, and its story needs to be told. History, in fact, is exactly that, a story. Throughout time, there has been heartbreak and loss, happiness and sadness, destruction and reconstruction. It is through history that we learn the mistakes and successes of those that have come before us, that learning of our nation's, states, and world's history is pivotal in determining our future. It is through the education of young people, like those who sit amongst us, that can truly change the world. All history must be remembered. The most abstract conversation from the village to the dawn of mankind to today's debates in the United Nations. We must protect our story. History chronicles the journey of mankind throughout the ages, and without it, we have nothing. Now, before the Scouts retire the colors, I'd like to use a quote that I find fitting. A people without the knowledge of their past, history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Marcus Garvey.
I'm proud of my young friend that when he walked in one day and we met, and I didn't think our talk and our walk would lead to this. But I'm very proud of what he's done. He's done a very good job, and as a historian, I gotta give you a thumbs up. I feel, one of you do benediction, but in honor of our Kolo Pisa, my family, I'm going to do it in our language, because there's not too many of us that still speak it. And I'm going to end up with one of our songs, one of our prayer songs that would have been done out here. Amico, eno se yuatai te se emugla ka pizai o ashtege. Amico yoko ki ka korpisa uma e ka tustokai ni chaide. Amico se one de ka ese and Jack yoko ki sa da ese pizada yuakana te shnege. Amico, you is a muglas, you are the startice, and okay, there's a fabu with Arika, and no a story, a chupmaka, Amico, Yoko Kika, Tashitoga, Amicos, and Pai, a pizza cosa stashi, a clica, a te, a con a uka, a pie, Amico, Yoko Ki. Yoko Ki.